Okay, good afternoon. I would like to talk about the Arab world. What does it mean? The Arab world are all those countries somewhere the majority of people practice Islam. That means that they are Muslims, such as in Egypt. So especially I would like to talk about the relation between democracy and Egypt. What happened? In 2011, Egyptians voted for the first time in history. The media and the journalists told us it was the first time democracy arrived to the Arab world, that it was the biggest achievement of Egyptians. But as I will show you, really democracy didn't arrive to Egypt. And as I will explain, no pluralism, no consensus were on the Egyptian election process in 2011. So what happened before? In the 1980s, President Mubarak took the power of his country and he governed until 2011. In 2011, the people started to fight against those authoritarian governments. They started to holler for democracy, and all these processes were named as the Arab Uprisings. The consequence, in 2011, Egyptians had elections for the first time in history. The elected President Morsi got 51% of the votes in the second round. That means that he won the election. But as I will show in the next 4 points, no consensus was in the Egyptian election. And the first problem is that the results were published after 8 days from the election. In Colombia, for example, when we vote, we know the results in the afternoon, in the night, or maximum the next day. Why? Because it's a principle of democracy to know the results as far as possible. The only thing that has to be made is to count the votes and then publish the results. It's only what the people wants. So when we last 8 days counting the votes and 8 days to publish the results, maybe some consensus between the dominant parties, that means some coalitions, engagements, even corruption can be made on those 8 days we last publishing the results, and that goes against democracy. So at first time in the election process we find troubles. The second point that I will explain is that the President Morsi started to help the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is an Islamic organization founded in 1928 that wants to impose an Islamic state on Egypt. So their objective is to impose a government on which the rules are produced taking into account the religious codes such as the Quran. So as I will explain in the next points, the President Morsi started to help the Muslim Brotherhood, and the first thing is that he stopped some investigations that were in process against some members from the Muslim Brotherhood. So what happened? In 1997, a terrorist attack took place in Luxor. Luxor is a city at the south of Egypt. and there in 1997 60 tourists were killed and also 3 Egyptians were murdered. The assassins committed suicide after the attack. But who was behind that attack? The president of that time, that means President Mubarak, started to investigate who the possible responsibles were. And the investigations were against some members from the Muslim Brotherhood. So in 2012, as I was saying, the President Morsi extended an indult to all these members that were trying, that were in a criminal process, and the media and the journalists told us it was only a way to forget past rancors. Such as in Colombia, the journalists say to us that the peace process is only a way to forget past rancors and to strengthen democracy and to strengthen pluralism. So I think, and I'm not so sure, his objective was to forget those past rancors, because even in democracy is a principal value also of democracy, having justice. If a crime is committed, justice have to take part in the scene. So no investigations can be stopped with the reason of strengthening democracy. So in this first point, we can see how the President Morsi helped some members from the Muslim Brotherhood by stopping the investigations and giving them some indult. Okay, the second point is that the President Morsi decided to lessen the age of retirement of judges. What does it mean? For example, in Colombia, if you are a public employee, when you are 65 years old, you have to go out from your employ. You can't continue working. So in Egypt, the President Morsi decided to lessen this age, let's say to 60 years old, for the judges. So that means that all the judges that were between 60 and 65 years old had to go out from their job. At first seeing, this could be a good method to ensure that the young people would have a job. But then when we see the statistics, we realize that he only gave those jobs to members from the Muslim Brotherhood. That means that all the new judges were members, once again, from the Muslim Brotherhood. That means that his government, the Egyptians, were influenced by this Islamic organization. Okay, another point is very important to show is that not all the Egyptians are Muslim people. Some of them are Muslim people, but also there are Christians, Copts, Catholic. So there's a big problem where the Muslim Brotherhood is influencing the government. And the third point I want to show is that the President Morsi finally integrate a committee with only members from the Muslim Brotherhood. What does it mean? In 2012, a new constitution would be written for Egypt and everybody was supposed to participate. But thanks to some violence, to some pressures, the committee that would write the constitution was formed up only with Salafists. That means members from the Muslim Brotherhood. So as a consequence, when we read the final constitution that was wrote by that committee, we can say it's a good constitution. It gives some rights, some freedom, but the problem is in the Article 219. This article laid down the sources of law. What are the sources of law? Source means origin, so we are talking about the origins of law. But it's quite difficult to understand the concept, so I will explain it with an example. In Colombia, the Colombian Constitution lays down the sources of law in the Article 230. The Article 230 says that the sources of law are, in its order, the first one is the law, the second one is the jurisprudence,